Ethan Hayes died on his 17th wedding anniversary. As he lay comatose in the ICU, he heard his wife and son talking just outside the door. Ms. Caldwell, after Mr. Hayes' arrangements are settled. Will you be rekindling things with Mr. Vance? You've loved him quietly for so many years. You even sponsored his music studies in Vienna because his family had no money. And he stayed single all this time, just for you. Serena Caldwell didn't answer, but their son, Leo, spoke with conviction. Mom, I support you. Go find your own happiness. Julian is the one you really love. You've already missed out on most of your lives together. Once Dad is gone, you'll have fulfilled your responsibility. It's time to think about yourself. No one noticed the single tear that slid from Ethan's eye inside the hospital room, just as the heart monitor flatlined. Only at the moment of his death did he finally understand. Serena's heart had always belonged to another man. That was why she had been so cold to him for an entire lifetime. When he woke up, he was back in the 4th year of his marriage to Serena. He had a mischievous, adorable son. The family business was a titan of industry in New York, a commercial behemoth so powerful that even the mayor would raise a glass to him at charity galas. He had everything. But this time, on the very day Julian Vance's flight from Vienna landed, Ethan was the one to hand him a set of divorce papers. Julian stared at the bold letters on the document, stunned. You want to divorce Serena? And you're walking away with nothing? Not even your son? Ethan nodded calmly. I don't want Serena either. She's all yours. Just get her to sign these, and it's effective immediately. Julian scoffed. What kind of act is this? You've only been married to Serena for a few years, and you've already tried to kill yourself 3 times. Slash your wrists once, sleeping pills, a fake suicide jump, and now you're trying to use me as a pawn? Ethan shook his head. He had already tasted the full measure of that humiliation and neglect. In this life, he wouldn't be a fool for her again. I'm serious, he said. No regrets. Julian's phone rang. He put on speaker without any hesitation. Julian, have you landed? I'm waiting outside the terminal. I had your favorite Wagyu steak and some bluefin tuna flown in. A welcome home dinner tonight. Ethan recognized the soft, melodic voice. Serena had never spoken to him that way. She couldn't even remember his favorite foods. Julian laughed warmly. Serena, has it really been 3 years? I'm amazed you still remember what I like. 3 years without you feels like an eternity, Julian. My heart and my mind are full of you. In that instant, Ethan felt his heart clench. So, she wasn't naturally cold. She could conjure such moving words of love with ease. In his previous life, they were married for 17 years, and Serena rarely ever came home. The city's elite all whispered the same story. Ethan Hayes was obsessively in love with Serena Caldwell. He drugged and seduced her, getting her pregnant out of wedlock to force her into a marriage where he became the dependent spouse, the man who married into the Caldwell dynasty. Serena despised him for it, but everyone forgot that he was the one who stood by her for 20 years, from the time she was a disowned, illegitimate daughter to her ascent as a queen of the corporate world. He had even leveraged his own multi-billion-dollar fortune to lift her up. Then, the one that got away, her first love, Julian Vance, returned from Europe. Citing guilt and regret, she repeatedly left Ethan to see him. Even their son, Leo, preferred Julian. Dad's so boring and stiff. He never smiles. Uncle Julian is so handsome. It's not embarrassing for Mom to be seen with him. What they didn't know was that by then, Ethan was already suffering from severe depression. At their 10th anniversary dinner, a reporter asked Serena what the proudest, most regret-free moment of her life was. She paused, then said, "My proudest moment was sending the greatest love of my life to pursue his highest artistic dream." The world laughed at Ethan Hayes, calling him the pathetic dog who had stolen another man's place. Later, from the long years of suppression and melancholy, Ethan was diagnosed with cancer. Back in the present, Julian hung up the phone, a smirk playing on his lips. You hear that? It's pointless. No matter what you do, you can't force a woman who doesn't love you to stay. Of course, I can get Serena to sign this. As long as you don't back out. Standing in the wind at the private airfield, Ethan watched as Serena and Leo got out of their car. She opened the trunk to reveal it was filled to the brim with white mountain roses. Julian lifted Serena into his arms and spun her around. The 3 of them were laughing, looking for all the world like a perfect, happy family. A dull ache pulsed in his chest. He called Serena. Serena, where are you? Are you coming home for dinner? Her voice was as cold as ever. I'm taking Leo to the office for dinner. I won't be back tonight. The line went dead. Ethan was left with nothing but the sound of his own bitter, self-mocking laugh. This time, he refused to waste his life on a woman who didn't love him. If they both loved Julian Vance so much, he would give them what they wanted. Having made his decision, Ethan slept until noon the next day. Before, the strict rules of the Caldwell household for a man who'd married and demanded he wake up early every day to cook for his wife and son. He hadn't missed a single day in 17 years. Serena always complained that he lacked ambition, that he let himself go. She never knew that for him, already drowning in depression, just completing those simple tasks took every ounce of strength he had. He glanced at the time on the smart locks log. Serena and Leo had been out with Julian until 12:30 a.m. before coming home. When Serena saw him emerge from his room, she frowned. "What's wrong with you? Yesterday you didn't pick up Leo from preschool, and today you haven't even made breakfast." Ethan countered. "Where did you take Leo last night?" "A friend told me they saw you with Julian Vance." A flicker of embarrassment crossed her face. "Why are you so nosy?" "I just gave Julian a ride from the airport. He just got back to the country. He has no family or friends here. Nothing's set up for him yet." He just smiled faintly. Was it just a ride? Or was it a carefully planned welcome? "You know the truth." Unexpectedly, it was as if he'd struck a nerve. Serena shot him a venomous glare. "You know exactly how you trapped me into getting pregnant, how you stole Julian's place. I feel nothing but guilt for what happened to him, and all I want to do is make it up to him. What more do you want?" A chill settled in Ethan's heart. It was true that back then, he had been desperately in love with Serena. He'd even swallowed his pride as a scion of a wealthy family to confess his feelings to her multiple times. The night she was drugged by a business rival, he was the one who helped her. But for all these years, it had been twisted into a story of him intentionally seducing her, a grudge Serena held onto tightly. "Serena, you investigated what happened back then, didn't you? You know it was a setup by your rivals at Sterling Corp. But all these years you've pinned it on me, made me endure every kind of humiliation." He spoke each word deliberately. Serena was stunned by his confrontation. In her mind, Ethan loved her to the point of madness. He would never say a single word to defy her. What was wrong with him today? Just then, Leo ran out of his room, crying, "Bad Daddy, you promised you'd make me French toast and creme brulee today, but you didn't make anything. You don't keep your promises. You're not as good as Uncle Julian. You're bad. I hate you. Mommy, why can't we live with Uncle Julian?" Ethan looked down at the son he had raised with his own hands since birth, a son whose heart and eyes were now filled with another man. So, from such a young age, he was just like his mother, only fond of Julian Vance. "If you like Uncle Julian so much, then go find him." Ethan crouched down and gently stroked Leo's head. "Daddy isn't going to look after you anymore. You can do whatever you want." As he spoke, he took a step back, avoiding the small fist Leo was swinging at him. Serena stared at him, enraged. "What is wrong with you today? You're not acting like a father at all." Her assistant called. "Ms. Caldwell, all the onboarding paperwork from Mr. Vance is complete." The tension in Serena's brow softened. "Got it. I'm on my way to the office." She took Leo's hand and left without a backward glance, not even sparing him a final look. Ethan remembered his past life. In the 4th year of their marriage, the same year Julian Vance joined her company, Caldwell Corp faced a crisis due to a financial breach. He had used the entire massive inheritance from his maternal grandfather to plug the hole in the company's capital chain. This time, he wouldn't make such a pointless sacrifice. He was done being Serena Caldwell's lapdog. After Serena left, Ethan gathered all of his belongings in the house. If he was going to disappear, he would do it completely, leaving no trace for the mother and son. The anniversary gift Serena had given him, designer watches, bags, were all sent to a high-end consignment shop. The little teddy bear he'd bought for Leo, which had been crammed at the bottom of a toy box for years, was also packed away. When Leo was little, he had used that bear to soothe him to sleep, whispering, "Leo, go to sleep, don't be afraid. Look, the bear will stay with you in place of Mommy and Daddy." Now it was covered in dust. In its place on the nightstand was a Lego set from Julian. He packed it all up and sent it to an incinerator, letting the years of replaced affection and forgotten feelings turn to ash along with it. After he finished, he got a call from the trust in Paris. "Mr. Hayes, are you confirming your intent to inherit the entirety of Mr. Chenoweth's estate? It will become effective and merge with your accounts in 7 days." "I confirm." Hanging up, Ethan glanced at the now empty closets and packed his remaining luggage. He decided to move out today to make room for Serena and Julian Vance. Just as he finished packing, a message from Julian Vance arrived. "I found a way to get Serena to sign your divorce papers. Come pick them up at Aura Diamond Suite." When Ethan arrived outside the private suite, he didn't push the door open. It was left slightly ajar, as if on purpose. Inside, a game of truth or dare was in full swing. "Serena, You and Julian have been apart for so many years. Are you still in love with him? Now that you've brought him into the company, are you planning a little office romance? Come on, tell us. We're all waiting. If you can't say it, the woman speaking deliberately drew out her words, then grabbed an unopened bottle of Johnny Walker Blue Label and slammed it on the table in front of Serena. You drink this. Cheers erupted. Julian laughed and intervened. Hey, don't put Serena on the spot. I'll drink for her. He picked up the bottle of scotch and was about to tip it back when Serena snatched it from his hand, her expression firm. Put it down. Her voice left no room for argument. You were on antibiotics before your flight back. You can't drink. I'll do it. Ooh, a soft, tender look appeared on Julian's face. Serena, as she downed the entire bottle, the room filled with gasps and whistles. After she finished, a faint blush spread across her pale neck. Ethan watched it all, feeling nothing. Serena had developed chronic stomach problems from years of business dinners. He was the one who had cooked her a special, soothing herbal tea, day in and day out for a decade, carefully nursing her back to health. But none of that mattered when it came to protecting the man she loved. He had never cared about her past, but it was clear now that she had never let it go. There had never been a single moment when her heart was cleanly and completely his. He took the divorce papers from a waiter who brought them out. Serena's signature was already on them. He understood then that this was a well-orchestrated play by Julian. When he returned to that cold, empty home, Ethan was dragging out his last suitcase. Serena came back reeking of alcohol. She fumbled for the glass of water on the table and downed the stomach medication he had prepared for her. She stepped into the bedroom, and her eyes immediately fixed on the completely empty closets and shelves. Even the door to their son's room was open, revealing a bed that was unnaturally neat. Serena's eyes widened in shock. She strode forward and seized his wrist. Ethan, I gave Julian a ride home, and now you're going to pull this stunt and move out? The sharp pain in his wrist made Ethan suck in a breath. He coldly pulled his hand away and looked at her. It seemed Serena still didn't know she had unknowingly signed the divorce papers. Better this way, less drama. Ethan gave a slight laugh. You have your lover, and you're not afraid to acknowledge his position in public. So what does that make me? Serena Caldwell, starting today, I'm done waiting on you and your son. Serena suddenly sneered, as if she saw right through him. What is this? Another one of your pathetic games to get my attention. Jumping off buildings, overdosing. Wasn't that enough? Have I been spoiling you all these years? Since you don't want to be the husband who married in, I'll grant your wish. Starting tomorrow, I'm moving Julian in. This place should have been his from the start. Every word was a poisoned needle stabbing into his heart. In his past life, after they married, he had realized how cold she was. The pain drove him to slash his wrists, a desperate attempt to numb the depression inside him. But she had only watched with indifference. Only now did he understand. For a woman who doesn't love you, no matter how much you suffer, the only person you hurt is yourself. At that moment, Leo, who had just been brought home by the nanny, clapped his hands with joy. Yay, Mommy's bringing Uncle Julian to live with us. I love Uncle Julian the most. I keep the Legos he gave me on my nightstand. I need to get a present for him, too. Ethan said nothing. He resolutely pushed the door open and left without a hint of hesitation. Serena, Leo, don't worry. From now on, I will never be in your way again. The next day, Serena personally drove over to pick up Julian Vance. Leo seemed particularly excited, hugging Julian's waist tightly. Mommy, is Uncle Julian going to be my new daddy? Julian's smile deepened as he tweaked the boy's nose. Leo, you want me to be your dad that much? Well, that's up to your mother. He feigned concern. Did you and Ethan argue again? I hope nothing bad happens. He's just throwing another tantrum, Serena said with a frown. When he's done, he'll come back on his own. She didn't know why, but even though she was sure Ethan was just being unreasonable again, a strange sense of unease crept into her heart. Even if she didn't love him, the position of her husband, of Leo's father, seemed to belong only to him. Starting today, Uncle Julian will be staying with us for a while to help take care of you. As soon as the words were out, Leo joyfully threw himself into Julian's arms and planted a loud kiss on his cheek. Uncle Julian, you're 100 times better than my dad. I'm going to make sure you become my real daddy. The three of them entered the penthouse, laughing and talking. At the same time, Ethan arrived at the Caldwell Corp headquarters. As a finance MBA from the University of Pennsylvania, he had been managing the company's operations for Serena pro bono. Today, he was here to finalize his handover and settle his own long-overdue salary with the finance department. Coming out of his office, he saw the driver dropping off Serena, Leo, and Julian downstairs. Serena's hand rested lightly on Julian's arm, and Leo's small hand clutched the hem of Julian's coat. They walked with an air of confidence, their laughter echoing down the hallway. "Daddy, Mommy said you'll read me a bedtime story every night from now on. You're so much better at it than my old dad." Serena didn't correct him, only telling the driver to take him to school. "Be good, Leo. Listen to your teacher at preschool today." Then, she and Julian walked into the building arm in arm, as if they were the only two people in the world. Their eyes met Ethan's. The air froze. Julian immediately, tactfully, removed his arm. "Ethan, what are you doing here today? I heard you weren't feeling well and took a few days off." Seeing the box in Ethan's hands, Julian, holding a cup of coffee, moved closer. As he passed, he suddenly stumbled. The scalding coffee splashed all over his own hand, and the porcelain cup shattered on the marble floor. Serena violently pulled Julian behind her, her gaze like daggers aimed at Ethan. "Are you insane? Did you just stick your foot out to trip him?" Ethan stood frozen. Before he could even speak, Julian was already shaking his head with a sigh. "Don't blame him. It was my fault. I wasn't holding it steady." Ethan apologized. Serena's voice was sharp and clear. The entire office floor held its breath. Ethan stared at her. The trick was so clumsy, so obvious. Did she really not see it? Or did she simply not want to? She only believed what she wanted to believe. "Serena," his voice was laced with ice, "look closely. I'm at least 3 steps away from him." "Excuses." Serena let out a cold laugh in front of the entire office. "For days, you've ignored Leo, and now you don't even have the decency to be civil." She took off her blazer, as if trying to cool her rising temper. "Julian is only staying with us temporarily to help with Leo. Do you have to make such a public scene?" "Help with Leo?" Ethan scoffed, his eyes sweeping over the innocent-looking Julian. "By teaching him to call his mother's lover Dad?" A murmur went through the watching employees. "Ms. Caldwell is so good to this Mr. Vance, even better than to her own husband." What do you know? A woman like Ms. Caldwell, with her high standards, always wants something new and exciting. The real husband is losing so badly. It's hard to watch. Just then, Julian pushed Serena aside and, biting his lip, began to pick up the broken porcelain. "Serena, don't blame Ethan. It's all my fault." In the next second, Serena's hand cracked across Ethan's face. "When are you going to stop this madness?" Through the stinging pain, Ethan's hand instinctively pressed down onto the shards of porcelain on the floor. Blood dripped onto his severance papers, blooming into a dark red stain. Ethan bent down, picked up the blood-stained document, and in the dead silence of the room, straightened his back. "Serena," he said with a cold smile, "you know what? Watching you from upstairs just now, the 3 of you look more like a family than I ever did with you." Serena frowned at him, as if he were being completely irrational. "Are you crazy? Do you have any idea what you're saying?" A colleague stepped forward to de-escalate, leading both Ethan and Julian to a nearby empty office to get cleaned up. The moment the door closed, Julian sneered. "I thought Serena would at least have some respect for your marriage. Trust you a little. I didn't realize it was all so fragile. Give it up, Ethan. You can't compete with me." Ethan remained impassive. "Serena and I are already divorced. Everything you want will soon be yours." He thought to himself, when Caldwell Corp is on the brink of bankruptcy because of Julian's incompetence, will he still follow Serena so devotedly? He looked forward to that day. Julian was not expecting his calmness. "Ethan, you'll soon realize how foolish and pathetic all these attempts to get Serena's attention are, and I will make you withdraw voluntarily, so I can take your place," loud and clear. Ethan nodded faintly. "Fine, I'll be waiting." Julian had no idea that Ethan's heart was already dead to Serena. What he saw as an ambitious conquest was, to Ethan, like watching the final, irrelevant act of a play that had long since ended. That night, lying in a rented apartment, Ethan slept soundly through the night for the first time in years. He had a very long dream. He dreamed of the first time he met Serena. It was the afternoon of their college orientation. She was on the podium as the freshman representative, her white shirt billowing in the wind, full of youthful energy. He sat in the back row and watched the sunlight catch the ends of her hair as she lifted her head. Suddenly, the sweltering September heat seemed to fall silent. He didn't know then that this single moment would take root in his heart for over a decade. After starting at the International Prep School, he heard she was dating someone, the most popular guy in school, Julian Vance. He could only quietly bury his feelings. Later, he heard they broke up, and through a twist of fate, he ended up marrying her. He thought his years of secret love had finally come true, but he didn't realize it was the beginning of a lifelong tragedy. A knock on the door pulled him back to reality. Serena had her bodyguards kick the door in. She strode toward him, grabbed him by the collar, her eyes filled with a bone-deep chill. Julian tried to kill himself last night. He slit his wrists. What did you say to him? Ethan was stunned. He never imagined Julian would stoop to this to frame him. In the hospital room, Julian leaned against the headboard, his wrist wrapped in thick gauze. His face was pale, but his smile was triumphant. Serena, Ethan told me that people like me should just die. Since he said that, I had to prove him right. His voice was hoarse, but unnervingly calm. Maybe it would be better for everyone if I just disappeared. Ethan looked up and met a pair of eyes, so cold they seemed to hold a murderous intent. The same force you used to trap me in this marriage, you're now using to torture an innocent person. Ethan, you make me sick. I'll make you understand that there's a price to pay for hurting Julian. Serena's red lips parted, as if to say more, but a doctor called her away. The room was left with just Ethan and Julian. Julian dropped the act, a smirk twisting his lips. See that? How worried she is for me. When you overdosed and cut yourself, she just thought you were throwing a tantrum. So, what makes you think you can compete with me? A sharp pain shot through Ethan's chest, but his expression remained placid. I stopped doing stupid things like hurting myself over a woman a long time ago. But you were right about one thing. A woman who doesn't love me is like trash I've thrown away. Why would I ever go back and pick it up? He walked out of the hospital. Under the blazing sun, he realized his hands were shaking uncontrollably. He had already decided to leave. So why did his heart still ache for her? 2 days later, he received a text confirming his grandfather's multi-billion-dollar inheritance had been fully transferred to his accounts. It wouldn't be long now before he could settle everything and leave for good. On the way back to his apartment, night was falling. Suddenly, someone lunged from a dark alley and clamped a cloth over his mouth and nose. A sharp, chemical smell filled his nostrils, and Ethan quickly lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was tied up in an abandoned factory. A black cloth covered his eyes, and the ropes bit deep into his wrists. His body was stiff with cold, and the claustrophobia brought on a near-death panic. Who are you people? You can blame yourself for pissing off the wrong person. Ms. Caldwell wants us to teach you a lesson, make you learn how to behave. The man sneered, and then a series of slaps and punches rained down on his head, his stomach, his entire body. Ethan felt the blood freeze in his veins. It was Serena. She thought he was the reason Julian had cut his wrists, and she had actually hired people to beat him. Boss, the guy you want taken care of is done. Should we just leave him here? The voice on the other end of the phone was delicate and icy. Take him to a hospital. For 4 hours, they tortured him. He was covered in wounds, fainting several times only to be revived with cold water. It got to the point where he couldn't tell if the burning on his face was from the water or his own blood. The bright, sun-like girl from his youth had finally become a demon, blinded by love. In this relationship, he had lost completely. When he opened his eyes again, the white ceiling of a hospital came into view, the scent of disinfectant stinging his nose. Mr. Hayes, you're finally awake. You have no idea. You lost so much blood. You were unconscious for a whole day and night. The nurse's voice brought him back. From the hallway, he could hear a few other nurses talking. That woman is so beautiful, and she's so gentle and caring with her husband. Yeah, that patient only had a little cut on his wrist, but his wife is acting like it's the end of the world. Meanwhile, this guy in 403 is covered in injuries, and no one's come to see him. He managed to pull himself up, using the hallway railing for support, and walked to the door of the next room. Through the opening, he saw Serena and Leo by Julian's bedside. Leo was holding a large bouquet of white mountain roses, calling out sweetly, "Daddy, I picked these roses for you myself. They're the flowers of you and Mommy's love. You have to get better soon." "Julian," Serena said, her voice laced with pain as she held his hand, "I've already sent people to teach the person who hurt you a lesson. No one will dare bully you again. Please don't ever do anything to hurt yourself again." His wife was holding another man's hand, her heart aching for him. His son was standing on his tiptoes to kiss another man's cheek. The three of them looked perfectly happy. Ethan felt a dull knife twisting in his gut, carving away at his heart piece by piece. He remembered the time there was a mole in the company, leading to a financial crisis and leaked documents. He'd worked for days straight, pulling all-nighters until he collapsed from a perforated appendix. While he was unconscious, a nurse had called Serena, the emergency contact on his phone, urging her to come to the hospital to sign the surgical consent forms. It took several frantic calls before she finally showed up. "It's just appendicitis. It's not like he's going to die. Can't he sign for it himself? Why did you have to drag me all the way over here? Such a hassle." She had dropped those icy words and immediately returned to the office. Now, it was a painfully familiar scene. He took out his phone and sent Serena a voice message, enunciating each word. Serena, we need to talk. At a coffee shop. You want to divorce me? Serena's eyes widened, staring at Ethan as if she couldn't quite recognize him. For 4 years, he had been like a tame pet, obediently following her every command. Don't forget, you were the one who insisted on marrying me. This position as the Caldwell family's stay-in husband was something you fought for. I don't want to fight for it anymore, he cut her off, his gaze indifferent. For the rest of my life, I only want to be with the right person. If I can't find them, I'd rather be alone. Those were your words to me once. Now, I'm letting you go, so you could be with Julian Vance. He smiled. You love him so much. Shouldn't you give him a proper title? Serena's expression turned ugly. Leo, who was eating a strawberry mousse, pouted. Daddy, why are you fighting with Mommy again? Uncle Julian is just helping take care of me. He cooks for me and Mommy, and his food is delicious. You should learn from him. Ethan's tone was calm. It's okay. From now on, you won't have to eat my cooking anymore. Because I'm not your daddy anymore, he thought. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'll meet you at City Hall. As he finished speaking, Serena's phone rang. Just as he expected, she immediately stood up and walked away to take the call. Ethan could just barely hear the soft, gentle tone of her voice. Afterward, she hurried back to him. I have something at the office today, so I'm taking Leo with me. We could talk about this at home. You're the COO of Caldwell Corp. It's ridiculous for you to be living in a rental. Her lie was clumsy, but he no longer had the desire to call her out on it. He looked at the mother and son waiting for his answer, smiled faintly, and nodded. Okay, be safe. Serena visibly relaxed and stood up, taking Leo's hand. But as they walked away, Ethan's voice came from behind them. Serena. Leo. They instinctively stopped and turned to look back at him. Keep walking. Don't look back. I just want to say one thing to you. Goodbye. He emphasized the last word, but Serena didn't seem to notice its finality. After she left, Ethan used an anonymous number to text Julian Vance, telling him to be at City Hall at 9 a.m. the next day for a surprise. He would get everything he wanted, so would Serena and Leo. And as for him, he was going to find his freedom. That night, Serena didn't sleep a wink. She tossed and turned, watching Leo sleep beside her, an inexplicable anxiety churning within her. The next morning, as soon as it was light, she got up and tried to call Ethan, but his phone went straight to voicemail. She suddenly remembered his words about meeting at City Hall to get divorced. A wave of panic washed over her, and she rushed there, arriving well before 9 o'clock. Could he have been serious this time? Ma'am, our records show that you are already divorced. The clerk's perplexed words struck her like a bolt of lightning. Serena's mind went blank. She was already divorced. How is that possible? I'm sorry, Ms. Caldwell, but it shows here that you signed the divorce agreement 7 days ago. Mr. Hayes chose to leave the marriage with no assets. All property and custody of the child are yours. At that moment, Julian Vance was on his way, and Ethan Hayes was already on a flight to Paris. Outside the airplane window, the morning mist was burning away, and the rising sun illuminated the world with a clean, bright light. Ethan crossed his arms, leaned back in his first-class seat, and closed his eyes with a sense of release. In this life, he would never compromise himself for anyone again. For the rest of his days, he and Serena and Leo would be strangers. Serena clutched the copy of the divorce agreement the clerk handed her, her eyes wide with disbelief. She checked the signature again and again. It was undeniably her handwriting. The date on the document was 7 days ago. Impossible. What did I ever sign this? Her mind flashed back to that night in the private suite, with everyone cheering, and Julian handing her a love contract. He had smiled and coaxed her. Serena, when we were dating, we had nothing. You promised you'd do 100 things for me. Do you dare to fulfill that promise now? She never imagined that the flourish of her pen, in a drunken haze, was her signature on a divorce agreement Julian had tricked her into signing. Ethan wanted to divorce her, and he had planned it all along. Just then, Julian arrived at City Hall. Seeing Serena waiting for him, a triumphant smile touched his lips. She really was going to surprise him. He was glad he bought a new white shirt for the occasion. Serena. Julian rushed forward, taking her arm, his head slightly bowed in earnest anticipation. I can't believe you planned such a big surprise for me. You even texted me from an anonymous number. Serena, you're really something. Serena, still reeling from the shock, turned her head stiffly. She looked at him with confusion and bewilderment. What text? The smile vanished from Julian's face, replaced by a flicker of unease. The one you sent me, of course. He quickly pulled out his phone and showed her the message. Look, Serena, who else would send me something like this? He studied her expression, searching for any sign that she was acting. Serena's brow furrowed, and her face suddenly darkened, her tone turning sharp and menacing. I didn't send this. A wave of dread washed over her as understanding dawned. She grabbed him by the collar, her eyes like ice. Where's Ethan? Where is he? What did you do with him? Julian choked, pushing at her hands, his eyes wide with feigned shock. Serena, what are you talking about? I don't understand. When she didn't let go, a mist of tears formed in Julian's eyes. Serena, I can't breathe. Then, his expression shifted to one of sorrow and grievance. Weren't you the one who wanted to marry me? You and Ethan are already divorced. Like a lioness provoked, Serena's grip tightened, her voice rising uncontrollably. Who said I was divorcing Ethan? And how did you know? Her glare was so sharp it made Julian shudder. He had grown so used to being her pampered first love that he had almost forgotten she was the Serena Caldwell, the iron-fisted CEO who could make someone disappear from New York overnight. Seeing his reaction, she knew she wouldn't get a straight answer. She shoved him away in disgust. Serena spun around and ran out of City Hall, frantically dialing Ethan's number. But the cold, automated message from the receiver was like a slow, torturous knife. The number you have dialed has been turned off. She tried every possible way to reach him, but it was no use. She slumped, a deadness filling her eyes. How could she not reach him? He used to reply to her messages instantly. Why wasn't he answering now? Had he really left her for good? Impossible. Ethan loved her desperately, loved her to his very bones. He must just be angry about Julian moving in. If she just coaxed him a little, he would come back to her, just like he always did. Serena called her assistant, her eyes bloodshot. I want you to check every train station, every airport. I need to find Ethan Hayes' whereabouts now. The assistant, startled by her tone, immediately understood the gravity of the situation and stammered. Yes, Ms. Caldwell. Right away. Serena collapsed to the ground, her head throbbing. In all these years, she had never imagined a day when Ethan would leave her. He had become her shadow, inseparable, a part of her very being, and she had grown so accustomed to his presence, to the way he so thoughtfully and meticulously managed her life and Leo's. Even though she had been cold and distant for so many years, he would tirelessly share the small details of his day with her. Even when she was frustrated with work and took it out on him, he would be like a persistent son, sticking by her, comforting her, and helping her solve her problems. She couldn't imagine a life without him. Would her world become a disaster? Would their home become a silent, lifeless place? She had always believed that only death could separate them, that even in 100 years, they would be buried together. So by what right did he just silently announce his exit from her world, without even asking for her opinion? No, she wouldn't allow it. The overwhelming thoughts made her head split. Julian, feeling guilty, reached out to steady her. Serena, that kept husband of yours was always defying you. You told me you were sick of him, that your marriage was nothing but a cage. You said I was the only one you love. Didn't you promise you'd divorce him and marry me? As if triggered, she recoiled from his touch, her eyes flashing with renewed anger. I never said I would divorce him for you. Leo likes you, and he calls you dad as a childish joke. Don't think for a second that makes you the master of this house. The expression on Julian's face froze. Then, as if remembering something, he pulled out the love contract. Serena, look, it's in black and white. You promised to do 100 things for me that day. You said you would never go back on your word. He teared up. Serena squinted. So this was the cover page for the divorce papers he had tricked her into signing when she was drunk. First, watch a movie with the one I love. Second, watch a sunrise over the mountains and a sunset by the sea with him. Third, chase the northern lights together. Fourth, cook him a candlelight dinner. Fifth, go skydiving together. 100th, have a grand, once-in-a-century wedding. All these small, intimate acts of love, she had never done any of them with Ethan. Yet she had promised to do them all with another man. Serena's face flushed, then paled, whether from trying to convince him or to hide her own shame. Enough, she snapped, her voice sharp. Who told you that you could presume to know what I'm thinking? My marriage is not something you get to decide. Making up for the past does not mean I'm giving you permission to take his place. Who gave you the nerve to make decisions for me? Her glare was venomous as she swatted away the hand Julian tried to place on her arm again. Julian's lip trembled. He didn't understand. The woman who had been so tender and loving just days ago, the woman who had sponsored his education with millions of dollars a year, why had she changed so drastically the moment Ethan was mentioned? Serena, you're not thinking clearly right now. Marriage is a big deal. I'll wait until you've calmed down to talk about it, Julian said cautiously, then grabbed his bag and quickly fled the scene. Just then, a happy newlywed couple walked past, the sight stinging Serena's eyes. She remembered when she and Ethan got their marriage license. There was no ceremony, nothing. She hadn't even worn a white dress, just casual clothes. In their official photo, his tentative move toward her and her deliberate, cold avoidance were frozen in time forever. She had despised him, hated him for 4 years, and had been too miserly to even grant him a wedding, all while accepting his relentless tenderness and devotion without a second thought. But now that he was truly gone, she was starting to panic. "Ma'am, this is a public office. Please control your emotions." 2 clerks tried to intervene, but Serena's roar cut them off. "Get away from me." A massive, overwhelming panic seized her. Her heart pounded in her chest, and a dark premonition grew stronger and stronger. Just then, a news report flashed across the large screen in the lobby. "We have breaking news. A private jet that took off this morning has crashed in the Atlantic. Rescue efforts are underway, but the plane's black box has not yet been located." Serena's pupils contracted. Before she could react, her assistant rushed in, his face pale. "Ms. Caldwell, we found Mr. Hayes' departure information. He chartered a private flight, but this morning, it went down over the Atlantic." The light in Serena's eyes went from shock to a slow, crumbling collapse. In an instant, she grabbed her assistant by the collar. "What did you just say?" Her voice was ragged with anxiety, her eyes filled with disbelief. The assistant shakily handed her a tablet. The screen showed the urgent news bulletin about the missing flight. Mr. Hayes' flight was a private charter. It lost contact after flying over the Atlantic. The FAA suspects it crashed into the ocean. Serena stared at the flight number, then suddenly raised her hand and hurled the tablet against the wall. The explosive crack made the assistant jump back in fear. "Find out for sure," she said, turning around, her eyes now a raw, burning red. "I want him found alive." Her voice broke. She swallowed hard, as if unable to say the alternative. The assistant asked timidly, "Ms. Caldwell, didn't you promise Leo you would take him and Mr. Vance to dinner?" As if struck, Serena strode toward the exit, slamming her shoulder hard against the doorframe without feeling the pain, and kept moving. Her unhinged scream echoed behind her. "Get a helicopter ready. Contact the Coast Guard search and rescue. I'm going there now. I don't care what it takes. Find Ethan." The assistant watched as the woman who was always so elegant and controlled slammed her fist into the glass panel of the door. A spiderweb of cracks spread across the glass, reflecting her unraveled face and terrifying the clerks who witnessed it. Her one and only husband. How could she possibly not care? For 2 full days, Serena didn't go to the office. Instead, she used every connection she had, sending out teams to find any trace of the downplane. She waited anxiously for news day and night. She, who never believed in superstitions, found herself silently praying to any god who would listen to keep Ethan safe. But every update was the same. Nothing. She barely slept for 2 days and nights, becoming a wreck of a person. In the early hours of the morning, Serena dragged her exhausted body home. She pinched the bridge of her nose and was met by Leo, who ran into her arms, sobbing. "Mommy, why didn't you and Daddy come home? Where did you go? I was so scared by myself. I can't sleep without Daddy reading me a bedtime story." "Mommy, I keep having nightmares that Daddy disappeared, that he doesn't want me anymore, and I can't find him anywhere. I called Uncle Julian, but he said that when you come to your senses, you'll regret it and come find him." Serena knelt and pulled Leo into a tight hug, her own eyes turning red. "Leo, sweetheart, Daddy got a little lost. He can't find his way home, so Mommy went to look for him. You're a big boy now. For a little while, you'll have to be strong and take care of yourself, okay? As soon as Mommy finds Daddy, everything will go back to the way it was." Leo's sobs hitched, then grew louder. "Mommy, does this mean my nightmare came true? Did Daddy really leave us?" Serena's brow furrowed, a sharp pain twisting in her heart. "Leo, don't you remember what Daddy told you? Dreams are the opposite of reality. Besides, Daddy loves us so much, he loves our family. Why would he ever leave us?" She wasn't sure if she was saying it for Leo or for herself. It was as if only by repeating this mantra could she keep from losing all hope. Leo looked up at her, his face streaked with tears. "Really, Mommy?" Serena nodded. "So, you have to eat your meals and go to bed on time. Otherwise, Daddy will worry when he comes back and sees you've gotten thin." Leo nodded and obediently returned to his room. Serena noticed then that everything belonging to Ethan in the house was gone. When her eyes fell on the framed clay impression of Leo's baby footprints on the TV stand, she was thrown back to that day. During her labor, she had complications. What was supposed to be a natural birth turned into an emergency C-section, and during the surgery, her low platelet count caused a major hemorrhage. She heard later that Ethan, seeing the blood bags being rushed in and overhearing the doctors and nurses, was so frantic with worry that he got into a car accident on his way to the hospital. The cold, quiet hallway had echoed with his incessant muttering, "Please, please protect my wife. Let her be safe." Even her recovery was at the most expensive and exclusive postnatal center. Worried she wouldn't like the food, he constantly made her different healthy, homemade desserts to lift her postpartum spirits. She had once casually complained that the nurses at the center were all new and she was afraid they wouldn't take good care of Leo. So, he took over from the nannies, caring for the baby himself, day and night, rarely resting. He told her to just focus on her recovery and not worry about anything else. He was so terrified her C-section incision wouldn't heal properly that he meticulously cared for the wound himself every day, until it healed into a thin, barely visible line. Crack! The sharp sound of a slap echoed in the silent villa. Serena raised her hand and struck her own face, cursing herself. All those years of devoted care, and when he had a fever or felt unwell, all he got from her was sarcasm and indifference. Even the monumental task of raising their child had fallen entirely on his shoulders. She was a failure as a wife and a mother. Her cheek burned with shame. Even the name she gave Leo was one she and Julian had once dreamed up together. She remembered him smiling, a warm spring breeze. "Serena, if we have a girl, we'll name her Julia. A boy, we'll name him Leo. It's my love given to you. What do you think?" Serena fought back her emotions and found a dusty photo album under a bookshelf in the study. It was a family journal Ethan had kept. May 20th. Sonny, today is our 7th wedding anniversary. They say there's a 7-year itch, but it doesn't feel like it for us. We're still a happy family of 3. We even went camping today, a rare treat. We had a little barbecue by the lake, but Serena still seemed unhappy. Maybe something at work is bothering her. I told Leo we should give her a surprise. At night, under a sky full of stars with crickets chirping all around, Leo and I secretly pulled out the sparklers we brought. We convinced Serena to play with us, and I saw her face finally light up. I guess I really am the only one who knows how to make her happy. November 28th. Cloudy. A few days ago, we were watching a TV show, and there was a beautiful snowy scene. I mentioned how I'd love to go skiing. Then Leo started clamoring to go too. I didn't think Serena was listening, but she remembered. Today, the 3 of us suddenly appeared on a snowy mountain. Watching Serena teach Leo how to ski, I often think about how lucky I am. August 8th. Sunny. Julian Vance came back today. Serena seems different, happier than I've ever seen her. She didn't know how much time had passed before she looked up, realizing her face was soaked with tears. The last entry was from 7 days ago. She turned to it, her hand trembling. It began at the start of summer, and it ends at the close of summer. The story between you and me is hereby cut in 2. So, he had been planning to leave her all along. The moment Ethan Hayes boarded the private jet, he subconsciously pressed a hand to his heart and found that it no longer ached. The place that had once burned with pain for one person every second of every day was now as still as a stagnant pool. All the memories of Serena, the unrequited dreams of love, vanished in an instant. More than a decade of unforgettable love stripped clean. "Mr. Hayes, I'm so sorry, but the business class on this flight is fully booked. There was a system error with your reservation." The flight attendant's voice pulled him back to reality. "We apologize. We can offer you a full refund and a complimentary seat on another flight. Would that be acceptable?" He nodded mechanically and turned to leave, pulling his carry-on behind him. He overheard 2 flight attendants whispering, "Isn't that the heir to the Hayes fortune? I heard he chased the CEO of Caldwell Corp for 3 years, even gave up his family's wealth to marry into hers. And it was a forced marriage, too. Don't you know? That Hayes heir has always been notoriously proud. He didn't break his stride. His heart felt none of the familiar sting. Even topics that would have once made him flee in humiliation now sounded like stories about a stranger. The rescheduled flight was in 7 hours. After arriving in Paris, he saw the news from back home. The flight he was supposed to be on, the one he had rescheduled, had crashed into the sea. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt that the universe's twists of fate never ceased. But this was good. This way, Serena would never be able to find him. He checked into a private wellness clinic in the 16th arrondissement. The doctor said he was shockingly malnourished, as if something had drained all the life from him. He knew what it was. It was the emotional toll of a 20-year, two-lifetime, unrequited love. Now, even the illness felt like a river without a source. 3 months later, he enrolled at the Sorbonne Business School. His blonde, blue-eyed female classmates were fascinated by the boy from the East, and several of them asked him out. When the Italian teaching assistant placed a rose on his desk, and the whole class erupted in cheers, all he felt was annoyed. He turned down every advance. He was no longer capable of falling in love with anyone. His life was placid, without a single ripple. Occasionally, he would walk along the Seine, watching couples kiss on the Pont d'Arts. Once he passed a bridal shop and found himself inexplicably stopping to look at a mermaid-style gown in the window. He had once dreamed of giving the woman he loved a spectacular, world-class wedding. But because of her resistance, he and Serena never had one. One rainy night, coming back from checkup, Ethan hailed a taxi. The driver was Chinese and had a Chinese radio station playing. As he was dozing off, he caught a familiar name. Serena Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Corp., has dispatched a top international search and rescue team and has personally traveled to the Atlantic, as her husband was a passenger on the flight that recently crashed. His body jolted. The driver, seeing his interest, kindly turned up the volume. It's reported that flight LH721, which Ms. Caldwell's husband was on, crashed 2 weeks ago, and the black box is yet to be found. However, Ms. Caldwell refuses to accept the official search results. Sources within Caldwell Corp reveal that she has barely slept or eaten in 2 weeks, neglecting all company affairs, a stark contrast to previous rumors that she despised her husband. The car's display screen switched to a news feed. Serena was standing on the deck of a search and rescue vessel. The sea wind whipped her long hair into a tangled mess. She was so thin she was almost unrecognizable, with dark circles under her eyes. The proud, radiant woman he remembered was gone. A reporter held a microphone up to her. Ms. Caldwell, you've been out here all this time. Have you completely abandoned your vast company? The moment she looked at the camera, his breath caught. Those eyes, always so calm and composed, were now shot with blood vessels, churning with an emotion he had never seen before. It was the despair of someone who had been broken for days. If I can't find Ethan, I'm not going back. Serena's voice was painfully hoarse. I failed him. He is my husband. In this life, the next life, and the life after that. He will always be my husband. Those last words, spoken in his past life, made his blood run cold. Through the screen, he looked at the Serena in the video. In a place he couldn't see, she was searching for him like a madwoman. She was finally willing to admit her love, to let it grow wild and unchecked. But it was too late. His heart was a dead, crumbling tree. It would never stir for her again. Serena had completely lost her mind. She mobilized all her resources, pouring an astronomical sum of money into hiring the world's most elite deep-sea rescue teams. They searched the crash site day and night. She herself became a walking ghost, stubbornly remaining on the frontline vessel. She clung to the obsessive belief that her Ethan was out there somewhere, waiting for her. She read and reread the journal Ethan had left behind. All the tenderness, the pain, and the despair she had once ignored now felt like words written in blood. She remembered the hemorrhage during childbirth. The doctor, with a grave expression, had handed Ethan a stack of forms to sign and delivered a critical condition notice. The patient is hemorrhaging. The situation is not optimistic. The family should prepare for the worst. He had become hysterical, almost crazed, falling to his knees and begging, "Please, doctor, save my wife. She's the most important person in my life." The doctor had professionally reassured him. "Rest assured, we will do everything in our power to save the patient." In truth, all he wanted was for her to live. He didn't care if she was left disabled or paralyzed. As long as she was alive, he could find the best doctors in the world to help her recover. After all, he had only acted as the antidote that night to save her, taking the place that should have belonged to Julian. She shouldn't have blamed him for it. He didn't deserve a lifetime of torment, to live in a world of pain she intentionally created just to vent her frustrations. Even when the nurse brought out the baby, smiling and congratulating him, "Congratulations, it's a boy, come on, Dad. Hold your son." His heart had been filled with joy. He looked at the sleeping infant, tears of happiness streaming down his face as he murmured, "This is my child with Serena. This is wonderful." When she woke up from the anesthesia, he brought the baby for her to see, to hold close. But she had looked at the child with irritation and disgust, seeing him only as the beginning of a sinful mistake, completely unable to love him. Yet when she tried to turn her head away, her eyes fell on the small, pale, soft face, and her heart had become a tangle of complicated emotions. Serena remembered how her resentment and awkwardness toward Ethan had manifested in constant emotional and verbal abuse, causing him so much psychological stress that he developed depression and anxiety. Once, a paparazzi photo taken from a misleading angle sparked a tabloid scandal with another man. She didn't bother to explain, only sneering at him. "Ethan, do you think every man is like you, shamelessly drugging and seducing women?" She never thought that because of that one careless comment, Ethan would slit his wrist that same night. The wound was deep, the blood staining the entire bathtub red. Luckily, Leo had a nightmare and woke up crying for his daddy, finding him in time and calling her. Even with a cut that deep, she hadn't bothered to visit him in the hospital, merely instructing the household staff to take care of him. She had even thought, Ethan has become the enviable Mr. Caldwell. He doesn't have to worry about a thing at home. Even the child has a dedicated nanny, and his only job is to spend time with our son. How could someone with such a privileged life possibly have depression and anxiety? She dismissed it as just another one of his ploys to get her attention. In her eyes, Ethan was overly dramatic and sensitive, nothing like Julian, who was so understanding and open-minded. But when Julian had his suicide attempt, which was just a shallow scratch, she had been overcome with sympathy, even arranging a VIP hospital room for him. Worse, to avenge Julian, she had hired thugs to beat Ethan up. He had dragged his battered body to the hospital himself, only to see her and Julian being affectionate right outside. She thought of the chronic stomach illness he had so carefully managed for her over the years, never missing a single meal in over a decade. And yet, for Julian, she had downed a bottle of hard liquor without hesitation, casting aside all of Ethan's past warnings. The dull ache in her stomach was nothing compared to the empty comfort of Julian's words. Serena felt a pain in her heart so sharp she could barely breathe. Every memory was a blade, flaying her alive. She started suffering from severe insomnia. The familiar, gnawing pain in her stomach returned with a vengeance. Without his special meals and gentle words, the agony threatened to consume her. A piercing regret shot through her. She had been so cruel to the man who gave her his entire heart, casting him aside like trash, while she treated Julian, a man of empty words, like her shining moon. No wonder Ethan was so determined to leave her. More than a decade of sincere devotion had not only failed to warm her heart, but had instead subjected him to endless psychological torment. That was it. Only when a heart is truly dead can it stop loving. Even fate itself seemed to be taking back the man who loved her most, condemning her to a lifetime of regret and guilt, to grow old alone with her sorrow. When her assistant arrived, he was shocked by the sight of empty bottles strewn across the floor and Serena's disheveled, haggard appearance. He reported in a low voice, "Ms. Caldwell, your grandfather wants you to come home." Serena was summoned back to the old Caldwell estate by her grandfather. The old man took one look at her and, seething with anger, slammed his cane on the floor. His face was red with fury as he yelled, "Look at you! What have you become? There are thousands of employees at the company who depend on it for their livelihood. And you abandon your duties, leaving the entire burden for others to carry. It's just one man who died. Is that more important than the 100-year legacy of Caldwell Corp?" Serena's eyes were firm, her voice resolute. "Yes, it is. Ethan is more important than Caldwell Corp. If the company goes bankrupt, it could be rebuilt. If I can't find Ethan, then I've lost my husband forever." The old man's wrinkled face trembled with rage. He struck her thigh with his cane. "You insolent girl! You are the heir to the Caldwell family, the pillar of this entire dynasty. You can have any man you want. Why are you wasting time and money on a dead man?" But Serena was unmoved. "Grandfather, you said it yourself. I am the heir to Caldwell Corp. How I use its resources is my decision. You should just enjoy your retirement here at the estate. You wretched girl." The old man nearly choked on his anger, taking a long moment to catch his breath before trying again. If that's the case, then find a suitable man to marry. Become the new Mr. Caldwell. It will help quiet the recent scandals and prevent further damage to the company." At the suggestion of remarrying, Serena's already exhausted, bloodshot eyes took on a chillingly fierce glint. Her voice was ice. "Grandfather, you're not as strong as you used to be. You should stay out of my affairs. Otherwise, I hear the climate overseas is quite nice for retirement." Without waiting for a reply, she turned and left, not bothering to look at the old man's thunderous expression, and slammed the door behind her with a resounding crack. Returning home, her mood foul, Serena saw a light on in her son's room. Leo, rubbing his sleepy eyes, ran out, and was so frightened by his mother's unprecedented state of collapse that he burst into tears. "Mommy, what's wrong? What happened? Where's Daddy? I want Daddy. I want Daddy to be with me." The child's cries pierced the dead silence. Serena looked up, her vision blurred by tears, and saw her son's terrified little face. His eyebrows, so much like Ethan's, were now the sharpest of knives, carving into her heart. She pulled him into a crushing hug, her grip so tight it made Leo wince. "Daddy, Mommy lost him. I'm so sorry, Leo. It's Mommy's fault you've lost your father. It's my fault our family is broken." Hot tears streamed down her face, falling into Leo's hair. Her suppressed sobs made her voice crack even more. Leo was stunned by her words and her tears. His small body went rigid, and an unfamiliar terror seized him. Daddy was really gone? The dad he had complained about, the dad he had hurt, was never coming back? Was Daddy so angry at him that he decided he didn't want him anymore? Serena suddenly had a realization. She discovered that the person she loved wasn't actually Julian. It was just an unresolved obsession from her youth, fueled by his rejection of her for being poor. Her feelings for him were a product of her own insecurity, a desire to possess what she couldn't have. All her kindness towards Julian had been nothing more than an effort to prove to him that the poor girl he once looked down on was now a powerful figure in the business world who could move markets with a flick of her wrist. It was a subconscious attempt to show him how short-sighted he had been. She had only wanted to erase the insecure, impoverished girl she had once been in his eyes. She remembered it clearly. Back then, she was just an illegitimate daughter. Although the Caldwell family hadn't publicly acknowledged her, they provided for her with the bare minimum of financial support. Her striking looks and excellent grades made her a star at school, and at a school festival, she and Julian Vance had a chance encounter and became the campus's most envied couple. She thought they would be together forever, but as college graduation approached, Julian broke up with her. He smiled gently, but his words were laced with scorn. "Serena, I'm done playing this game. It was fun while it lasted, but let's just go our separate ways. You're not the kind of woman I want to marry, and I don't want to waste any more time on you. Here's $1,000. Consider it compensation for your emotional distress over the last 3 years." Julian shoved the cash into her hands, twirled the keys to his Porsche, and walked away. Later, she met Ethan Hayes. His exceptional talent drew her in, and she brought him into her circle. But at a business dinner, someone trying to curry favor with her had drugged a man to send to her room. Through a mix-up, Ethan ended up being the one to intercept the plot. And because of that, she began to hate him. But it was undeniable that with Ethan's help, she had become a rising star in the business world, her career flourishing. Even the Caldwell family was forced to formally acknowledge her existence and name her as the heir. The next day, Julian Vance showed up with a homemade lunch, his face etched with concern as he looked at her haggard state. "Serena, don't torture yourself like this. You have to take care of yourself. After all, both the Caldwell family and Caldwell Corp need you to lead them. Besides, it hurts me to see you like this." Serena gave him a cool glance, ignoring the lunchbox. She cut straight to the point. "If you have something to say, say it. If not, please leave. Ethan doesn't like you in our home." The smile on Julian's face froze. His hands, resting on his lap, tightened their grip on his pants. He forced a laugh. "Serena, Grandfather sent someone to find me. We had a long talk at the estate. He said he's very pleased with me. I know this is a difficult time for you, Serena, but it's okay. I'm willing to wait." Her eyes, bloodshot and weary, flashed with rage. She swept a glass from the table, and it shattered on the floor. "Get out," she roared, her voice low and menacing. "I don't want to see you. My only husband is Ethan Hayes. No one else should even think about it." The expression on Julian's face turned to stone. He couldn't believe it. The woman who, just days ago, had been so head over heels for him, willing to promise him the moon and stars. Why had her attitude toward him changed so completely? She had promised to make up for their lost time, to fill the years he had been away. Didn't she hate Ethan? Didn't she tell him she only married Ethan because she was pregnant and pressured by public opinion? Why was she rejecting him now, just because Ethan was missing? Why was she defying her grandfather's wish for her to find a new husband? Why was she wasting the resources of Caldwell Corp on a pointless search for Ethan? No, Ethan Hayes was missing. This was his chance, an opportunity he couldn't let slip away. He couldn't let Serena continue to spiral. He had to seize this moment and become the rightful Mr. Caldwell. His voice dropped. "Serena, I'm sorry. I know bringing up your grandfather's wishes upset you. But he's an old man. We shouldn't defy him over something so small, should we? If I've done something wrong, just tell me. I can change. Please don't be angry. Don't keep your feelings bottled up." You can tell me anything. I'll share the burden with you. Serena, I know you're hurting. Seeing you like this, I'm really worried about you. Just let me take care of you for a while, okay? Don't push me away. I just want to be here for you. But Serena was unmoved. She glanced at him coldly and pushed his hand away. Julian, your acting skills are truly Oscar-worthy. You have more talent than a professional actor. You know exactly what you're plotting. Let me make this crystal clear. You will never have my husband's position. The man of this house is, and only ever will be, Ethan Hayes. Security, show him out. And from now on, he is not to set foot in this house again. The bodyguards outside the door entered at her command, grabbed Julian by each arm, and dragged him out. Get off me. Let me go. Serena, why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong? We love each other. Why can't we be together? Serena. Julian's voice cried out, a last-ditch attempt to evoke her pity. The grating shouts finally faded into silence. Serena looked around the vast, lifeless villa. She went to the bar, grabbed a bottle of wine, and started chugging it. One empty bottle after another fell to the floor. Her face flushed. She leaned against the bar, the alcohol numbing her nerves. She looked at the empty air and giggled foolishly, tears streaming down her face. Ethan, she whispered, look at me. I'm drinking so much. Why aren't you here to stop me? Usually, the moment you see me drink, you put on that stern face and scold me, telling me not to mess up my stomach. How can you not be here to take care of me? If you don't, what if I really destroy myself? Suddenly, her expression soured. She remembered, in the early days, to secure her position at Caldwell Corp., to prove herself to her family and her grandfather, she had always been the heaviest drinker at business dinners. That, combined with irregular meals and sleep, led to her suddenly vomiting blood after one such dinner. It was a terrified Ethan who had rushed her to the hospital. The doctor's diagnosis was a bleeding ulcer, warning that if she didn't take care of her stomach, her risk of developing cancer would increase dramatically. So, on top of helping her with company affairs, Ethan had taken it upon himself to cook her 3 different, healthy meals a day, ensuring she ate and rested on time. He even helped Leo with his homework so well that his son was always at the top of his class. He not only cared for their family with meticulous detail, but also filled their home with warmth and life. He planned different family activities and surprise celebrations for every holiday. All she ever had to do was cooperate. In her memory, Ethan had always shown her his bright side. Even after she gave birth and her emotional abuse worsened, leading to his depression and anxiety, he only became agitated and sensitive when she was caught up in tabloid rumors with other men. And she had never bothered to explain, leaving him to process the negativity and insecurity on his own. A sharp pain from her stomach made her instinctively clutch her abdomen, trying to ease the ache. It was useless. The pain only intensified. She could only bend over, rummaging through cabinets and drawers for her medication, but she couldn't find it. She remembered Ethan organizing the medicine cabinet, his gentle voice instructing her. Serena, your stomach medicine and the other basic household medications are all in this box. Don't forget. She hadn't even looked up at him then. With you here, why would I need to worry about such small things? She clearly remembered the blissful smile on his face at her words. At the time, she didn't know why he looked so happy. She was just too lazy to pay attention, too lazy to remember such trivial details, and had brushed him off with a careless reply. Waves of pain and burning sensation washed over her. Frustrated by her fruitless search, she instinctively reached for her phone to call him, only to remember she couldn't. So, she lay down on the sofa, curling into a ball, hoping to alleviate the discomfort. She drifted into a restless sleep. The next morning, her assistant arrived at the villa. The house was dark, the air thick with a mixture of stale scents. He sighed softly. He pulled open the curtains, letting the sunlight stream in, and gently shook Serena awake. He showed her a video on his phone, speaking quickly. His voice was filled with excitement. Ms. Caldwell, look. Serena kept her eyes closed, not responding. You can't keep going on like this. I stumbled upon this video. I'm not sure, but you know Mr. Hayes best. At the mention of Ethan's name, Serena's eyes snapped open. It was a viral video from a social media platform. Hashtag Paris Street Style, hashtag Met an Angel, hashtag Damn if this is you. In just 2 hours, it had over 100,000 likes. In the video, a black Porsche Panamera was parked by the side of the road. A man in a camel-colored trench coat stood beside it, his short hair rustling in the breeze like a dark, flowing river in the night. He was looking down, his dark hair falling forward, but as the dim streetlight passed over him, the sharp line of his jaw was visible. She had watched him lower his head in that gentle way for 10 years. In a fleeting moment, a bodyguard stepped forward, opened the car door, and invited the man to get in. At the end of the video, as the man turned his head, Serena recognized him instantly. Her gaze trembled. That was her Ethan. Serena began to laugh and cry at the same time, her whole body shaking with excitement. Her Ethan was alive. He had been tricking her. She knew he was a lucky man, that he wouldn't lose his life so easily. As long as he was alive, she had a chance to get him back. Their family wouldn't be shattered. A sudden notification sound pulled Serena from her reverie. She glanced at her phone. It was a message from Julian Vance. Serena, I'm sorry. I know you've been in a bad mood lately. You could treat me however you want. I don't care. I just hope you stop torturing yourself. Grandfather is old. Don't upset him anymore. Just go along with him on the small things. When the elderly are happy, the family is harmonious, right? Serena, when you're feeling better, please go home and see your grandfather. Sit down and talk things through with him. A family shouldn't have grudges. Serena frowned, her eyes filled with disgust. He was still dreaming of becoming her husband. The moonlight she had yearned for in her youth had turned out to be a cheap illusion once she finally held it. He had never been the pure, white moonlight of her heart. When her assistant told her he had found evidence of Julian repeatedly provoking Ethan, the last vestiges of her reason and old feelings for him burned to ash. It seemed the position of Mr. Caldwell was truly his ultimate dream. Fine, she would grant him his wish. Before she went to find Ethan, she decided to give Julian Vance a grand gift. Serena returned to the old Caldwell estate. Her grandfather, who was reading the newspaper, saw her and angrily threw the paper on the table, then slammed his cane on the floor. What are you doing back here? Did you come to see if you've managed to anger this old man to death yet? Serena softened her tone, speaking with a detached calm. Grandfather, I've thought about what you said. I agreed to marry Julian Vance. The old man was stunned, asking again to be sure. Really? Serena didn't reply, remaining silent. To her grandfather, her silence was confirmation. Serena, are you serious? Julian, carrying a bowl of washed fruit, appeared, his eyes lighting up. He had overheard their conversation and was looking at her in disbelief. Serena hadn't expected Julian to be at the estate. Though filled with revulsion, she didn't show it, only nodding faintly. I will follow your arrangements, grandfather. Julian was overjoyed, grabbing her arm excitedly. This is wonderful, Serena. You finally come around. I thought we had missed our chance, but I never imagined we'd have another opportunity to spend our lives together. The old man nodded with great satisfaction. A perfect match indeed. Serena, with a smart and open-minded man like Julian by your side, I'm sure Caldwell Corp will continue to prosper. Serena discreetly pulled her hand away without looking at him, addressing her grandfather with a mechanical tone. The wedding is in 3 days at the Astoria Grand. You should prepare yourself. If you're interested, grandfather, you can attend as well. Julian didn't question the strange phrasing, replying with a gentle warmth. Serena, don't say that. Of course, family has to be there for something as important as a wedding. The old man, now looking at Serena more favorably, smiled and gave his instructions. Even though it's rushed, a Caldwell wedding is a major event. It can't be too shabby. It must be a grand affair. Serena put on a serious face. I understand, grandfather. I'll make the arrangements. Then, without another word, she turned and left. On the day of the wedding, the Astoria Grand was filled with the city's elite, high society families, business magnates, and political figures who had all received invitations. Julian was in a back room, trying on his tuxedo. He looked in the mirror, admiring how the luxurious, custom-made suit perfectly accentuated his tall, fit frame. His eyes gleamed. Wow, Ms. Caldwell really knows how to pick a suit. This looks like it was made for you, his best man Matt exclaimed, his eyes shining. Julian lifted his chin smugly. Of course, Serena knows me best. She naturally knows what suits me. Matt circled him, his voice filled with undisguised envy. Damn, our Ms. Caldwell has great taste. Not just in suits, but in husbands too. I don't know how many people are going to be jealous of this look, this body. Julian's voice dripped with false modesty. You're exaggerating. I'm just average. Matt laughed, clapping a hand on his shoulder. Come on, buddy, don't be humble. So many guys in this city have tried to get into Ms. Caldwell's bed, but you're the one who managed to hook her and make it official. That's your charm. Julian's gaze was full of self-satisfaction as he admired his reflection. Serena and I missed out on too many years. Fate took pity on us and gave us a second chance to be together. Just then, a bodyguard's voice came from outside the door. Mr. Vance, once you're dressed, please come with us to the ceremony. Matt eagerly pulled him toward the door. Look at that, Ms. Caldwell can't wait. We're coming. When Julian saw the 6 stone-faced bodyguards waiting for him, he frowned. A strange feeling crept over him. Where's Serena? Why isn't she here? The bodyguard responded respectfully, evading the question. Ms. Caldwell only instructed us to ensure your safety, Mr. Vance. She gave no other orders. Matt's eyes were wide with admiration. Ms. Caldwell is so thoughtful. I wonder when I'll ever find a woman so rich and attentive. Congratulations, Mr. Vance. Wishing you a happy marriage and many children. Congratulations to the Vance family on gaining such a fine daughter-in-law. This will surely elevate your family's status. May you both live a long and happy life together, surrounded by children and grandchildren. Congratulations, Mr. Vance. I guess we should start calling you Mr. Caldwell now. The endless stream of compliments from the guests was music to Julian's ears, feeding his vanity. Matt looked at the opulent wedding hall, his eyes shining. Julian, you're so lucky. It's clear Ms. Caldwell prepared this magnificent wedding just for you. But why don't I see any wedding photos? Julian smiled and explained, Serena hasn't been feeling well lately, and with the wedding being so rushed, we didn't have time to take any. But she said that after she's had some time to rest and recover, she'll take me to get them done. Matt didn't think much of it, just sighed with envy. Of course, a woman always wants to look her best in front of the man she loves. The officiant stepped onto the stage. Welcome, everyone, to the wedding ceremony that Ms. Caldwell has so lovingly prepared for Mr. Julian Vance. Due to business, the chairman of Caldwell Corp cannot be here today. And since Ms. Caldwell is preparing a surprise for Mr. Vance, we will begin the ceremony without further delay. The officiant beamed and began the opening remarks. And now, will the father please escort his son to the stage? This bizarre twist in the proceedings sparked curiosity among the guests, but no one dared to comment. Julian's father took his arm and walked him slowly toward the stage. Dad, do you know where Serena is? Julian whispered, a strange, anxious feeling rising in his chest. His father maintained a polite smile. Don't worry, you'll see her soon enough. She wouldn't miss such an important occasion. His father's words were a balm to his frayed nerves. He couldn't suppress the smile spreading across his face. However, after leading him to his spot, his father didn't leave. He remained, holding onto his arm. Julian anxiously scanned the crowd, trying to find Serena. And now, let us welcome today's groom. Before the officiant could finish, the grand doors of the ballroom burst open. A gust of wind and rain swept in, extinguishing the candles along the aisle. The murmuring of the guests ceased abruptly as everyone turned to look. 6 bodyguards pushed a gold-plated wheelchair slowly down the aisle. The figure slumped in the chair made the blood in Julian's veins turn to ice. It was a 70-year-old man with white hair and a wrinkled face. Saliva dribbled from the corner of his crooked mouth, and his cloudy eyes held a lecherous glint as he stared fixedly at Julian. His twig-like fingers twitched, and the corner of a urine bag was visible beneath his tuxedo. Let us welcome the groom, Mr. Preston Caldwell. The officiant's voice became a shrill ringing in Julian's ears like a death knell. He stared in horror. Preston Caldwell, Serena's disabled second uncle, who had already outlived 3 wives. The guests erupted in confusion. What's going on? Did the officiant make a mistake? Why are there 2 grooms? When Preston saw Julian, his eyes lit up with a predatory green light, and he couldn't stop drooling. He slurred, Julian, you look so handsome today. I'm not up to much right now, so you'll have to do the work on our wedding night. Julian's pupils constricted in sheer terror. He finally understood what the old man meant. He turned to run, but his father and the bodyguards grabbed him, holding him fast. Panic seized him. Dad, what are you doing? Let go. I'm getting out of here. I'm not going through with this. His father smiled kindly, but his words sent a chill down Julian's spine. Julian, your mission is to continue the Vance family's legacy. It's time for you to repay the family for raising you. Serena, dressed in a sharp power suit, stepped out from the side and took the microphone. Welcome, everyone, to the wedding of Mr. Julian Vance and my second uncle, Mr. Preston Caldwell. The crowd below erupted, unable to believe what they were hearing. What is Ms. Caldwell saying? Isn't this her wedding with Julian Vance? Don't be so quick to judge. Preston Caldwell is a powerful man in the family, known for his particular tastes. His personal fortune is substantial. He may be old, but the important parts still work, I hear. It won't stop them from having a life together. That's right. Haven't you heard? A man is a boy until the day he dies. Old Preston is as vigorous as ever. The jeers reached Julian's ears. His legs went weak, and he started shaking his head in denial. No, I won't marry into this family. I won't be some boy toy for a dying old man. Serena, you can't do this to me. No, you can't. The words dying old man made Preston's lecherous smile fade, replaced by a dark, sinister look. He stared at Julian, his eyes raking him up and down without any pretense. Serena's smile didn't falter. Marriage is a serious matter, decided by one's parents. A man of your station should understand that, Julian, especially someone from your background. You don't get a say in who you marry. Julian's father chimed in with a smile, his grip tightening on his son's arm in a silent warning. Ms. Caldwell is right. Your marriage to Mr. Caldwell has been agreed upon by both the Vance and Caldwell families. All the legal arrangements have been finalized. He patted Julian's hand solemnly. Julian, for the future of our family, you will marry into the Caldwells and serve Mr. Preston well. This is the best outcome for everyone. Do you understand? Julian knew he had been sold out to save his family. He shook his head like a child, refusing to accept his fate. He pleaded, his eyes filled with tears. Dad, I'm begging you. Anyone but a dying old man. I'll marry anyone you want. I promise. I'll be obedient. I swear. I just don't want to spend my life with an invalid. Please, Dad. His father's face was stern, his voice laced with impatience. Since it's all the same, and times have changed, what's wrong with Mr. Caldwell? Julian, this is your fate. Accept it. Julian's voice was hoarse from crying. Dad, it's not the same. At least find me a woman. And now, will the grooms please exchange rings? Serena's voice cut through his protests, and she nodded at his father and the bodyguards. His father pulled a ring from his pocket and forced it onto Julian's finger, a perfect match to the one on Preston's hand. Julian fought back, trying to pull the ring off. Crack! A sharp slap echoed through the hall, freezing him in place. Insolent son. His father had struck him so hard his head snapped to the side, a bright red handprint already swelling on his cheek. The blow was so forceful it split his lip, a trickle of blood running down his chin. A loud ringing filled his ears, his mind going blank for a moment. The stinging pain brought him back to his senses. He lunged toward Serena, grabbing her hands, tears streaming down his face. Serena, I'm sorry. It was all my fault. I was jealous of your love for Ethan. I was bitter that I lost a woman with so much potential. Everything I did was because I love you. I was wrong, Serena. I shouldn't have forced Ethan to divorce you. I shouldn't have helped him trick you into signing the papers. Please save me. I don't want to be a nursemaid to a crippled old man. It's too horrible. Serena violently shook him off, sending him stumbling to the floor. Julian, you always wanted to be Mr. Caldwell, didn't you? I'm just granting your wish. Besides, from now on, I'll have to address you as my aunt. It's an honor other men can only dream of. You should be happy. Julian shook his head frantically, tears smearing his perfectly applied makeup. He scrambled on his hands and knees to her feet, his pride forgotten. Serena, if you just call off this ridiculous wedding, you can do whatever you want with my family. Please, let me go. I was just so in love with you that I wanted to take Ethan's place, to become your husband. I swear, if you help me this one time, I will stay far away from you forever. I'll never dream of being Mr. Caldwell again. Please, Serena. Serena pulled her foot away, her eyes filled with nothing but cold hatred as she looked down at him. Because of your scheming, I lost my husband. This wedding is just a small down payment on the interest you owe him. At her words, Julian collapsed onto the floor, his eyes empty of all hope. Serena turned away. Let us congratulate the happy couple. May they enjoy a long and prosperous union. Preston mumbled something unintelligible. Serena glanced at him. It seems my uncle can't wait. Tonight, you shall consummate your marriage. Though stunned, the guests broke into a thunderous, yet eerily silent, round of applause, exchanging uneasy glances. They had just witnessed a new level of Serena Caldwell's ruthlessness. Look, Mr. Vance is so overcome with emotion, he can't even walk. Take them both to my uncle's home. As for the rest of you, please eat, drink, and don't let this spoil the party. Serena gestured to the bodyguards, who quickly moved in and dragged Julian away. No, Serena, please let me go. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Julian's shrill screams grew fainter and fainter. Just then, someone from her grandfather's staff rushed over. Ms. Caldwell, it's terrible. A critical data leak caused by Mr. Vance, when he was your assistant, allowed a rival company to plant a virus in our system. The company's capital chain is broken. If we don't secure funding immediately, we'll be facing bankruptcy. Ms. Caldwell, the chairman collapsed from shock. You need to come back right away. You have to make a decision. The man was frantic, but Serena seemed not to hear him. She picked up a napkin and slowly, meticulously, wiped her nails, a hint of excitement in her voice. Did you record all of it? Her assistant nodded. Yes, Ms. Caldwell. We have a complete record of Mr. Vance's downfall. Serena looked down, satisfied. Good. Arrange a private jet to Paris for me. Nothing else mattered. Her mind was consumed by a single, stubborn thought. She was going to take all her guilt and her belated love, and she was going to find Ethan. Ethan Hayes never thought he would see Serena Caldwell again. He had once loved her to the point of obsession. To him, she was a rare, beautiful crane in the snow. She had never spared him a single glance. Now she stood on the street, disheveled and haggard, searching for him. The moment their eyes finally met, Serena's were filled with a mixture of shock and joy. Ethan, I've been looking everywhere for you. Those eyes, once so full of cold indifference, were now cloudy and desperate, like those of a fox abandoned in the wilderness, latching onto him as if he were the only piece of driftwood in a stormy sea. Serena swallowed hard before she could speak. Ethan. She reached out to embrace him, but Ethan took a step back. She froze. He found her touch repulsive. Serena's trembling hands pulled a carefully folded piece of paper from her bag. She clumsily unfolded it and held it out to him. It was a childish crayon drawing. On it, 3 small figures in matching tracksuits stood under a giant rainbow, holding hands. Beside them, in messy letters, were the words, "Me and Mommy and Daddy." Leo drew it, she said, her voice breaking. He waits for you every day. He misses you. I miss you too. But Ethan just laughed mockingly. He pointed to the man in the tracksuit. I never wear tracksuits. The man in this picture is Julian Vance, isn't it? Serena went rigid. She had never paid attention to Leo's drawings. She had found this one by chance on her desk. The 3 of you are the real family. Now that I'm gone, shouldn't you and your son be happy? Serena was frantic. Ethan, it's not like that. I didn't realize until you left that I can't live without you. Every month, every night, every second is torture. Forgive me. I've been running from my own feelings all this time. The person I love has always been you. Only you. She paused, her voice choked with emotion. And Leo only has one father. Ethan looked up, his gaze piercing through her current state of desperation and sorrow. She reached out her hand in supplication. Ethan, come home with me, please. She would never know about his rebirth. It wasn't just a few nights, not a few months. It was 17 years, 29,200 lonely nights. Every single one of those nights, their coldness was like a blade of ice, freezing his hope, cracking his heart. Home. His voice was soft, but it landed on Serena's heart with the weight of a mountain. Serena, tell me which home. The home where you and Leo abandoned me for Julian Vance? Or the home you sent me to after having me beaten in an abandoned factory, the one you watched me crawl away from, covered in blood? He leaned in slightly, a flicker of emotion finally appearing in his eyes, a deep, impenetrable sorrow. 17 years, 29,200 nights. Every night, I told myself, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow she'll come back. Tomorrow she'll finally see me. But your actions, one by one, like a knife, carved away every last bit of warmth from my heart. Ethan's gaze was as calm as a still lake. Whatever was between us is long gone. No, Ethan. Serena lunged forward, trying to grab his hand. I know I was wrong. I really know. I turned the Atlantic upside down looking for you. I sold my shares in Caldwell Corp. I don't want anything anymore. I just want to be with you. A massive panic seized her, making her words tumble out incoherently. Tears finally streamed down her face, splattering onto the vibrant rainbow in the drawing, creating a damp, blurry stain. Give me one more chance. A last chance. I'll pay you back with my life. Just then, a tall, elegant figure approached them. It was a beautiful woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. Ethan, she asked in a gentle voice, intertwining her fingers with his. Is this woman bothering you? Do you need help? Ethan looked at the newcomer, his new girlfriend, and a faint warmth finally touched his eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, he squeezed her hand and pulled her into his arms. It's nothing, Wendy. He turned back to the frozen Serena. Ms. Caldwell, please go home. There is nothing left for us to say. He didn't spare another glance at the tear-stained drawing. He let Wendy lead him away, their figures melting into the flowing lights along the riverbank. Serena's outstretched hand remained frozen in midair, grasping at nothing but cold, empty space. She watched Ethan's retreating back, and like a clay figure with its bones removed, she collapsed onto the cold stone bench. Only now did she finally understand the lesson Ethan had taught her. This was what it meant to have your spirit completely crushed. What is lost forever. A few months later, at a cafe, Ethan sat by the window, holding a warm cup of coffee. A waiter cleared away an old French newspaper. Tucked away in a small corner of the international finance section was a tiny, inconspicuous headline. Hong Kong-based Caldwell Corp officially filed for bankruptcy. In another section, a smaller news brief in the Society pages read, Manhattan socialite Serena Caldwell hospitalized with terminal stomach cancer. Her son has been taken into custody by Child Protective Services due to neglect. When Ethan read this, he paused for a moment. Serena's tears, Leo's cries, the shrill beep of the heart monitor from his past life. Countless images swirled in his mind, but they were like looking through a thick, frosted glass. They no longer stirred a single ripple within him. So it was true. It could all just pass by like a gentle breeze. The love and hate that he once thought were carved into his very soul, powerful enough to destroy his life, had finally crumbled into a single, light, dry leaf, falling to the ground without a sound. Outside, the sun was bright. The Seine River still sparkled, flowing quietly on. And